It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. Now, you can find me at Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting. If you just email me at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. That's the best way to get a hold of me for PI type work. I'm really excited today. We have Norio Hayakawa. He wrote this really famous book about ufology and stuff like that. Really prestigious career in ufology. The book's out of print. It's called UFO, The Grand Deception and the Coming of the New World Order. It's out of print. You can't even get it anymore. But you can find him on YouTube at the Norio Hayakawa YouTube channel. And he's also on WordPress, the noriofhayakawa-ufology.wordpress.com. You can find him there. If you want to meet him in person, you March 30th, Saturday morning, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. in Albuquerque, New Mexico at the Cherry Hills Library. You can go there. It's like an open discussion forum. You can ask him anything you want. Mr. Norio Hayakawa, are you there?
I am right here, Ed, and I'm so excited to be on your program.
Thank you, sir. I'm very excited to have you, too, as well. Oh, boy. Why don't you give the audience an idea of who is Norio Hayakawa?
Well, basically, I'm just a regular guy. I'm nothing special. I just, I spend a lot of time doing research on various topics, especially on topics like the unsolved UFO phenomenon, as well as other kind of topics that deal with a lot of stuff, including my favorite one, conspiratology. And I am not a conspiracy theorist. I'm a conspiratologist. That means that I study the effects of belief in conspiracy theories on society and how it affects people's actions and people's beliefs and so on. So I am a conspiratologist, and there is no word officially such as conspiratologist. It's just a word coined, I believe, by my former colleague Gary Schultz around 1990. And so that's who I am. I'm just no special person. I'm retired, and I'm kind of an old guy. I'm close to 80, and I'm still doing my things that I enjoy, especially now that I'm retired. I have plenty of time, and so this is who I am. I believe that it's so important in today's world to sift through all types of information, misinformation, as well as disinformation, because we are being bombarded every day with all kinds of nonsense, and it's very important to distinguish and to discern what is believable and what is not believable, and why certain information or disinformation are being propagated. There should be a reason for that. But anyway, that's who I am, and I live in the great state of New Mexico, USA, and I'm so happy to be living in this amazing land of enchantment, the state of New Mexico, yes.
So 80 years old. I've heard the name Norio. I'm 60. And I've heard the name Norio Hayakawa for many, many, many years. Art Bell.
Oh,
okay. I don't want to say you're old for a long time. But now, what initiated your interest in this, I guess you call it ufology, in this field of ufology?
Well, actually, this is a very important item in my life, because when I was growing up in Yokohama, Japan, I was born and raised in Yokohama, Japan, 1944. And when I was just a kid growing up, my father used to tell me quite often at the dinner table with my mother and my sister he used to tell us about his strange experience, that is to say, his sighting of a strange greenish ball of fire slowly maneuvering over the Bay of Yokohama as he was night fishing, which was his hobby for many, many years. He used to, enjoy night fishing. He goes out around after midnight and stays up till about 4 or 5 in the morning, probably like almost every night. And that kind of infuriated my mother, because my mother always wanted him to become a novelist, because he was good in writing, and but fishing became his more than his hobby, and so he used to night fish almost every night in the Bay of Yokohama. And in 1947, in the summer of 1947, one night around 2 o'clock in the morning, as he was fishing in the Bay of Yokohama, he saw a greenish ball of fire maneuvering intelligently, he says, over the bay and just moving slowly. And so he used to tell us that experience. And by the way, as a night fisherman, he knew all kinds of astronomical events, meteorites, everything. But only on one particular evening, a night, that's the summer of 1947, only one time he had this experience of seeing something he couldn't explain. And that was the beginning of my interest in the so-called flying saucers. And, my mother was a skeptic at that time and didn't believe my father, but I was affected. So when I grew up, in the middle school and then went to high school, and in 1961, when I was a high school student, I started in earnest investigating and finding out more about this phenomenon called the UFO phenomenon. And so that was in 1961. So, I have more than 60 years of continual research into this strange phenomenon that is still a mystery to me. And I don't have the clear answers to this phenomenon because, I just don't want to be dogmatic about anything, and but I believe that it is a real phenomenon. And so, when I was a university student in Tokyo, Japan in 1964, I was looking at an English language newspaper in the lobby of the University of Sophia University in Tokyo. And I saw a newspaper article that was in April of 1964. And the newspaper article, the headline, in the middle of the newspaper, it wasn't a humongous article, but an article that appeared in the middle of the newspaper, and it says, "Police officer sees saucer sitting on sand," dated April 24th, 1964, by Associated Press. And the point of origin of that story was a little town called Socorro, New Mexico, which I never heard before. And so that really became a spark for my curiosity, further curiosity into this phenomenon. And I was fascinated about New Mexico because I had no idea where New Mexico was, much less a small town called Socorro, New Mexico. And so anyway, that was 1964. And I dreamed that I wanted to go to this place. But coincidentally, and I don't believe there's such a thing as coincidence in our lives, but coincidentally, the next year, in 1965, I received a scholarship from a university in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And what a tremendous thing this was for me. I was so excited. It was Albuquerque and New Mexico, the place I wanted to go. And so in 1965, I came all the way from Japan to this state of New Mexico. That changed my whole life. And so I've been here in New Mexico since 1965. But of course, there was a period from 1973 to 1982 where I lived in Phoenix, Arizona. And then after I did my thing teaching in Phoenix, Arizona, teaching high school, by the way, I was teaching Spanish out of all things. But anyway, I moved then on to Los Angeles in 1982. And I was looking for a place to stay, and I found a place to stay because an employment agency was looking for someone who could stay in a small company in the Little Tokyo section of Los Angeles. And so I went to this employment agency, and they said yes. They're looking for somebody to stay upstairs and answer the telephone every night. So I went to this location, and Lord behold, it was a funeral home. And it was the only Japanese-American funeral home in not only in Los Angeles, but in the entire United States. And so there I was in 1982, living in a funeral home, and I was answering the telephone every night, all alone in the upper floor of the funeral home, while there were about 26 people just sleeping downstairs, so to say. And so that became my long career of a licensed, funeral director in Los Angeles. I did that for almost close to 30 years.
Very interesting. Very interesting. We were talking off the air a little bit, right? And you were talking about your concern and your interest in disinformation and counterintelligence, I guess. Did you come to that position because of your experience in the ufology community, where there seems to be quite a bit of disinformation and kind of fantasism on the part of some people? You've been involved in a lot of these conferences and stuff like that, and so have I. And have you ever noticed, like, some of the speakers are just kind of, just kind of frauds? You know what I mean?
Yes, no question about it. This field of ufology is filled with all kinds of charlatans and characters, all kinds. And I have encountered so many in my many, many years involving myself in ufology, and I've attended conferences. I've met hundreds and hundreds of interesting characters. And, of course, there are some sincere researchers, but for the most part, the field of ufology is filled with lunatics and, charlatans. And so I call this the field of ufology, UFOO, ufology. And by the way, that word was coined by none other than a gentleman by the name of William Bill Cooper.
Sure.
In the beginning of 1990s, and so I think that was a good term. And so, there are some authentic, good researchers in this field, but for the most part, there's so much misinformation and disinformation. And disinformation is basically done by people who are part of a private organization or even governmental agencies can, and they do. By the way,
then let me ask you this, because clearly, the government has all their agencies out there to spread COINTELPRO. We know all this. But who are the private companies and the private industries that are trying to manipulate the storyline in